My name is Armando Branchini. I am an university professor. I teach at Bocconi University Milan. I am specializing in business strategies for companies that deal with luxury goods and services. I am also the vice chairman of Altagamma Foundation, the body that represents Italian luxury companies. And finally, I am the past president of ECCIA, the European Cultural and Creative Industries Alliance, that represent more than 400 European companies in the high-end and luxury sector. I believe that there is a tremendous heritage and legacy of craftsmanship in this country. As a matter of fact, Indians are equally able in working whatever raw material, precious, non-precious, natural and man-made. The point is that they don't have, generally speaking, but not the craftsmen, but the entrepreneurs, they didn't have so far the spur to trade up. And to be competitive at the international scale, they have to trade up, generally speaking. It's a matter of accepting, first of all, competition. Indian business people have a tremendous advantage of having in this country the largest middle class worldwide. So having also the protection of the borders through very high tariff and non-tariff barriers, they are naturally keen to manufacture mass market products because it's much easier, and they can set up huge volumes, and also if the profit might be quite limited, the economic result will be very huge. So far, very few companies are motivated to do so because they are not competitive enough. If they don't open the India market and accept competition, they can be competitive abroad. As a matter of fact, India has a tremendous legacy, in particular in very special fabrics and embroideries. And as far as I know, the top Italian or French or British designers are used to buying such fabrics in India, and this started a long time ago. But in the pipeline, the professional pipeline, all the people, all the key retailers of the world know that certain fabrics are just manufactured in India. But the same is in the jewelry pipeline. All the color stones are cut and polished in India. The strong majority of the Bulgari or Cartier stones are polished here. I don't know if probably should the final consumer know it, probably it would be positive. But one thing is be in a position of doing or preparing, intervening in the raw materials or in the B2B part of the process. What Indian industry as a whole so far has been incapable to do is to be consumer-centric, to be in a position of interpreting the final consumer needs and aspiration and expectations, and this is not just linked to the ability, technical ability of transforming some raw material, but of course is based on an entrepreneurial ability and the ability of setting up style identities and so on. We had the case of sub-designers who created a totally made in India fashion capsules, and this has been useful, but in this case what was prevailing was not the made in India, but was the cultural reference of the traditional Indian design and in particular fashion design. I believe that generally speaking there is another point. To be in a position of becoming an international renowned brand, there is a long list of ingredients that are needed. From business strategy to strategic marketing to the ability of deal with tangible and intangible values and aspects, a very strong industrial platform, consistency, quality control, service to the final consumers, and so on. Generally speaking, in the eastern part of the world, people are better suited, probably culturally, to become individual renowned designers than to be in a position of building brands. I make an example. Japan has been, in the last 45 years, one of the most important luxury markets the world over, and as a matter of fact, three top designers have emerged in Japan: Issey Miyake, Yohji Yamamoto, and Rai Kawakubo of Comme des Garçons. I would say that they still are working, and they still are working, and they are known as fashion designers. They have been totally unable, in my view, to create brands, to create stable organizations that can survive and prosper to 100 years from now or 200 years from now. What will be hopefully the case of Prada, of Gucci, of Bottega Veneta, of Chanel, of Dior, of Louis Vuitton, Ralph Lauren. I believe that the Be Open exhibition in India in these days has been very well set up. The quality of the architectural intervention was very, very high. As for the contents of the exhibition, I found something very interesting. I found something very original. On the other side, I found something that was just a remake of more famous objects that are already in the international market, manufactured by Italian or British or American companies. Well, frankly, I believe that the effect of having a common branding, an umbrella brand, may be beneficial also in terms not just of conveying values, but also hopefully of providing a better appreciation on the business side. Sure, the brand had to be Indian name. Frankly, I am not sure that the meaning, the real meaning of this brand will be immediately appreciated or understood and appreciated abroad. It needs to be explained. I think so. I believe that the architectural approach, which is quite different from just, they say, a display setting up approach, was a very good idea, and gave to the products that were on display the opportunity of being put on a silver tray. I believe that Be Open can play a role, first of all, through communication. One of the basic points for countries like India is the relative inability to communicate properly its own values. And I believe that, as I am convinced that in this country we have, as I mentioned, a legacy of manufacturing and craftsmanship. We have more and more creative talents. This other pole has to be properly communicated. On top of that, the big platform, in a way, which is missing in the industry. If I've well understood, Be Open project started in Europe, London and Milan, and daily now with the third phase. I believe that there is an opportunity after these events to go on with the follow-up for years. Otherwise, the risk could be to jump a little bit superficially from one country to another. But that said, I believe that Asia, some Asian countries, some Latin American countries, and some African countries could be in my preferred list for Be Open to develop its activity. I believe that Be Open next could move in some Asian, Latin American and African countries. In Asia in particular, I would think about Vietnam, for example. In the case of Latin America, I would think about Colombia. And in the case of Africa, frankly speaking, I would think about Angola, Nigeria.